Hello everyone. Here with a video response to Kellyann Maddox and her Self-Love September. So great project, great project. She's here on YouTube and does stuff on Facebook too. And I got to know her through tarot cards and some of the videos she has up about tarot card reading. And, she likes to go deep, and I appreciate that. And she has this Self-Love September that she has extended out to others in terms of asking them to participate. And I've been meaning to all month. And it's now September 30th, so down to the wire here. I spent the morning looking at some of the other people who hashtagged the Self-Love September, self-love stories, that kind of thing, here on YouTube. And, there can be some very emotional things to watch. My heart definitely goes out to many of the people and the difficulties they've had, the hardships they've faced that have affected their ability to love themselves. But I will say this, I think that although some people have humongous challenges in terms of things that they need to overcome from childhood and developmental periods of their lives, I think, it's an ongoing challenge for all of us, I think, because our lives refuse to be static, I think. You have to try hard to have a completely static life. And so we continue to evolve, and we have to kind of come to terms with what comes up as we evolve. Is this positive? Is this negative? How do I deal with this? What inner resources do I bring to this? And you can look back after you've maybe drawn on some inner resources you didn't have. And in my case, it's like, oh, I sure wish that I would have been pushed to acknowledge and develop this aspect of myself earlier. How it could have changed my life. I don't think radically, but I still think it could have. So yeah, this is a ramble. What I'm getting to, what I really want to talk about here, is my relationship to a Medusa quality that I have, that I think that most people would view as negative. And what I'm trying to get around to here is the whole notion of personal power and the usefulness of being horrible. And I don't mean horrible as in nasty, but just having a horrible aspect that gives people pause. And that this is really valuable. And this is something that undoubtedly men are more comfortable with, I think, in most cultures. And they even have ways of, I think, honoring it, whereas women don't. And yet it's very important that we also have this horrible aspect, in my opinion. And so I end up being, I think, a little bit more at home with my horrible aspect, as I will call it, that Medusa aspect, because perhaps I saw my ability to use it at a fairly young age, and I've had people point it out, and it's not necessarily in a negative way, but in a whoa way, like it's like whoa, and not when I was being at all aggressive, nasty, anything like that. I mean, we can always amplify ourselves in that way. So let me just tell you about these two incidents. I thought there were three, but I can only remember two today. And so this to me is about personal power, about accepting and loving your personal power. And again, it doesn't require necessarily that you be aggressive or assertive. And I guess I can't say that I completely understand it. But here are the two incidents in which it's actually the reactions of men who that made me aware of this. Okay, so the first time, totally innocent but appropriate. And so I was on a boat. I was on a boat, a big boat on Lake Superior, in between Michigan and Canada, going up to a place called Isle Royale, and the water was whoosh whoosh, and so the ship was going up, ta-da. It was like not good for my stomach, but anyway, I was in order to combat the seasickness of the time. My brother and I both went out to the rail. I don't know how old we were, maybe 11, 13, maybe. I would be 11, he would be 30, somewhere in there. And so we were out there, because the wind coming off of the water helped a lot. So there was a lot of, it was a tempestuous day. It wasn't actually, might have been kind of humid, but, not bad. It wasn't storming or anything. And so, I was just kind of looking down into the waves and watching them go up and watching them to go down. That actually helps me. And, my brother was over to the side and he just said, "You should see your hair." And I'm like, what? What about my hair, And so I intentionally today left my hair on the tenderly side, I just washed it. This is the way it comes out, okay? And so it was not unlike this, because in the wind, it twists. It twists into these tendrils. And so what it was doing is the wind was lifting my hair. And I wasn't even that much aware of it. But, of course I knew it was lifting it a little bit, but it was actually lifting my hair up. And they were striking. It was going like that. It was going... So when I watched, like I was watching in the reflection in the water or something, I could see it doing this bit, and so I became, I don't know, just aware of it. To me, it was cool. It was like, yeah, watch out. And I do have my brother to credit, not only with noticing that and bringing it to my attention, and also in a manner that indicated both that it is horrible and it is impressive. It is horrible and impressive, okay? Like, I'm going to stand on the rail way over here, sister, while your hair is doing that. It's just weird. And it's like, whatever. I'll add this. My brother had strong, obnoxious powers. So the fact that the wind in my hair could, give my brother pause and push him was like, yeah, no problem. That's right, your sister's a Medusa, brother, over there. Step back. So I guess this is what I'm saying about, to own and love that power. If you are horrible, it's okay to have some aspect of yourself that gives other people pause. And I don't know that all people kind of automatically, I seem to sort of have this. And hair or no hair, do I think it's infallible? Are people nasty to me sometimes? Sure they are, But I also know, I guess I think of another instance that had nothing to do with my hair, in which somebody I was rooming with, one of her relatives had come over. This was in Utah. Very Mormon, very religious community, and her uncle was just exactly that. And he had come over for some reason, very briefly. But after he left, and she and I were talking, and she said, I cannot believe he did not witness to you, by which she meant proselytize, in some manner bring up religion and try to draw me into it. And it didn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me at all, because people just, they don't do that to me. And I don't know why. Maybe they see the potential in my hair. So one of the things that disturbs me a little bit, I'll tell you about the other story in a minute, but one of the things that disturbs me a little bit is, actually a lot, is that it is so difficult for most women to come into their power. We can come into, and this is often such a struggle, and huge hugs to everyone who is in this struggle. It's often such a struggle just to accept who we are, let alone project then outward in some way, in some manner. Project who we are outward, as in, hey, make space for me, here I am. Okay? It's not just don't come invade me, it's like, make space for me. Make space for me. So, the other story, and again, I'm not running around, damaging male egos or anything. It's just, again, my brother saw that, you can tease however long about that, and, it didn't disturb me, because it's like, yeah, that's power, yeah. And so another time that I was reawakened to this, because of course you forget about this stuff, it's just your hair. And, or, it's just your manner of going through the world, and you don't think about it. I am by nature an introvert. I am by nature excuse me, I'll go hang out under a rock while you guys have a party. No problem. I'm happy under a rock. That's, every now and then I might peek out, or maybe I'll wander away. Extreme introvert, all of that lovely, beautiful stuff, and I object to the pathologizing of introversion. Not a talker, none of that stuff, even though I'm doing it now with tarot readings and everything. That is not my nature, is to sit alone quietly. It's a beautiful thing for me. Which undoubtedly does make this accepting of the horrible, or the ability to, kind of have a shield that people understand they're not to violate. And again, it's not like I feel invulnerable, It's not like I've had close calls and things, but for the most part, people seem to be aware of this, and I don't completely understand why. But if they're not aware of it, you can be sure I will remind them. So the other incident, again, purely by accident, but still gave me a chuckle, in kind of, well, I don't know if it was happy. It was amusing. Let me just say that. It was amusing. So I had been out planting trees, okay, sweaty work. This was in Kentucky. And volunteer work. And as we were coming back, end of the day, we're coming back. I'm sitting, again, it was a group of volunteers. And so I was sitting on the back of a truck. And my hair was actually fairly short at that time, quite short. And, but sitting on the back of the truck, all of the breeze was blowing my hair this way, okay, and up and this way. And so I didn't think anything of it, end of the day, we're all tired, I get out. And I can't remember, I ended up toward the front of the truck. I mean, we have someplace else to go. I probably had my own car. I don't know if I was driving with other people. I don't remember that part. What I do remember is I can't remember if he was with the state parks or forestry or something, somebody who had been driving the truck, and he looked at me after I walked up. I must have had something I needed to say to him, and he just this shocked look on his face. And I thought, all right, you know what, if I get dirt everywhere. So I looked in the mirror of his truck, and it was because my hair was, it's like, came out like this, like this. And, you know, I could have had hairspray. You would have thought that you could only do this with hairspray. But no, the wind shaped my hair again into these kind of snake-like things sticking out. And again, so amusing is like, okay, I won't just freak that guy out. And yes, I did go, all right, I don't want to freak anybody else out for the day. You know, we've done our freak out for the day. But again, I just want to say, kind of for self-love, self-empowerment, to love that aspect of ourselves, that thing that is so impressive that people think they need to bring a sword in order to confront us. It's like, fine, you know, yes, you do need a sword. You know, sometimes when you know, when I'm not in a good mood, yeah, bring your sword. If you're on my territory, I don't even care if you have a sword. You're out of here. And I think it was something that I laughed at, something that I chuckled at, something that I was aware of for years without thinking, because, you know, I don't care and I'm not that social and, you know, whatever. You know, we all have different aspects of ourselves that we're not called upon to use very often. However, with that introversion came a certain shyness, most certainly. And so, you know, there came a point where I needed to start standing up in front of groups and talking to people. It's like, okay, face that. Was kind of thrown in the deep end and swam and thought, oh, I can swim, okay, you know. So I would continue to do that. But they were all very friendly, unchallenging environments, which is great. You know, that's, to me, that's perfect if you are, you know, starting to expose yourself to new challenges. Let them be gentle new challenges, okay? And become more challenging as time goes on. So beautiful. But I did have some failures in there in terms of those kinds of challenges where it's like there was that automatic sort of shield there. But I still wasn't projecting outward to the extent that I realized I had the power to do. And it's sort of like about controlling your environment and loving your ability to control your environment. And not seeing that as a negative or bad thing, like people, oh, you're a control freak. Well, here's where part of the self-love comes in. Well, if I am a control freak, I'm controlling my environment in positive ways. Okay? And so, fault me for that. Okay? Fault me for creating a situation of peace. You know? If I'm saying you're out of here, and you call me a control freak, that's fine, because it's to create a positive environment around me. Now, people don't actually often call me that or anything of that nature. So, but what I'm eventually getting around to is that I have had situations in a classroom, you know, where I consider it my job. It is my job within that classroom, within that environment, to control and create an environment conducive to learning and conducive to me delivering a message. And this might get cut off because I thought this was all charged up, but it looks like my battery is dying on this webcam. But in any case, so I've had increased need to assert myself. And it's funny because over time, it's like the world has created this situation where at first, lots of mature people, no problem, and then increasing teenage boys coming into the classroom. I teach adult education, which is, easy peasy, cream, it's just, because people are wanting to learn, they're very cooperative, they're adults. But as time has gone on, there have been challenging people who come in, whether adults or less adults, come in, mothers with children, where I have to assert to the mothers, hey, if your child is not behaving, the child has to go. And or speaking to poor children directly and saying, you need to listen to your mother when she tells you to be quiet. And it's funny how that one thing changes the child, and it's like, oh my God, mommy, the teacher talked to me. And it seems on the face of it, quote unquote, awful, but it's not. I have just empowered that mother. And I don't know. So I think we need to not be afraid of using our personal power, using our knowledge that we are responsible for and in control of whatever is around us, our space, our energy. Like I said, in my classroom where all kinds of people are coming and going. And what I would like to see more of, I would love to see more of, and I don't know how to make it happen, but there isn't enough talk about it, is how older people can help younger people see these possibilities. Before I run out of battery, I want to mention Amy Cuddy and her TED Talk. I would recommend anybody checking that out. But in general, how do we help younger women see that there is almost an extra step to take? And that's what I wish. And I did get some signals from older women, professors, when I was younger, saying things like, don't short yourself and stuff, but not really giving me what I needed to see that I had some kind of additional power or a way that I needed to step up in the world. And so I wish there was some more formal way, or that I even knew of anything that was a psychology behind this particularly, which is why I mentioned Amy Cuddy, as she at least talks about personal power in terms of our physical position and stuff like that. And I think that, we need to step up also, and when we are in a position of power, when we do accept this kind of power for ourselves, step up on behalf of women. And now I don't often get an opportunity to do this, or I don't see maybe the opportunities to do this. But here is one example from very recently. Again, my classroom over time has evolved, and right now it's just an awful lot of teenage boys. And so this is my morning class, a lot of teenage boys, maybe one older woman or two, and some younger women. On this particular day, I had that bevy of boys, and boys do come in bevies, believe me. Bevy of boys over here, and then over on the other side we had, I think, two older women and a younger woman. Younger woman who is also very introverted, also intelligent and doesn't like to show it, and kind of shuts down in her desire kind of not to show it. So the boys were restless, as boys will be, and were wanting to leave. And I had started with them on something where I think they were supposed to be saying Mr. and Mrs. in their last name or something. I teach English as a second language, so they were practicing those titles. And so the boys got finished, and I was coming over to the women, and one of the women finished, the other one was just starting to finish, and all the boys were starting to like get up to leave because it was just about time for us to go. And I let them have it. I said, all of you sit down. Sit down. Because they were like getting up and ready to rush out, even though the women had not finished. And I said, what kind of respect do you have for women in your culture? I don't know, but that's not how we do it. They probably didn't understand a word I was saying, but they understood my body language and my tone of voice, and they understood sit down. And not only did they understand that, they said, sit down and stay down. I said, you will be sitting until the women leave the room, okay? You're going to sit until every woman leaves this room, And so they all sat down, and then, get this, one of them tries to get up, and I said, sit down. And he said, I'm just collecting the books. I said, sit down, and it's all kind of a joke, in the sense, but I am definitely asserting my power. There's no doubt that they knew that I was not happy. I was not happy with their behavior, and they needed to get with the program quickly. Okay, so the young lady, finally I turned to her, I said, go ahead, say your thing. She says, I am Miss whomever. Then the women got up, it took their time, went out the room, and then the young men looked at me. Okay, they didn't automatically get up. They looked at me, and I said, okay, you can go now. So this is, and I'm not advocating that everybody get there. I think many women actually come to this sense of their own authority and personal power when they have children and they need to manage children. Groups of children, other groups of mothers, maybe in church communities, although asserting that level of power over, this is not a cooperative environment in my classroom unless I say it is. And that, I'm very much in touch with the fact that I create the environment. I am the one making decisions, and the people in the classroom, while they're in my classroom, need to abide by those decisions. And you can't do that on a church committee, okay? You need to have a completely different vibe, right? But yeah, I just, and so people who are teachers, it is understood that they need to do that. To some extent, I do know people who abnegate that power. They abnegate their authority in the classroom. So, and there are other professional positions that we end up in that challenge us to own our power. And they can often be very difficult for us to accept. And I think that that's a way that women create their own glass ceilings, is maybe feeling that they can't because it's uncomfortable. Again, I was lucky enough to have a situation where I was gradually escalated into a situation where I have to use that kind of, sit down, don't move kind of authority over essentially other adults, even if they are younger adults. And I will say this, that other adults recognize what you're doing and will honor you for what you're doing. And my battery is now at red, so I'll be cut off any minute now. I had a gentleman the other day come in, and he hasn't been my student for I don't know, 4 or 5 months. And he came in, and I was sitting at a computer, and he was passing to go to his class. And he stopped, and he did this to me. He's not Asian, he's actually from Haiti. But he stopped, and he did this to me. He said, "Teacher." And I really felt that in that action, then I reached out and I shook his hand. And that he was saying, that he's a pastor. The teacher in me is honoring the teacher in you. The leader in me is honoring the leader in you. Okay, even if he might not agree with what I do all of the time or whatever. That's the way I took that. And I did. I felt honored that he did that. I smiled and just shook his hand and treated it like another thing. But I know that there is something extra coming there, and deeply appreciate it. And so I hope others will explore their own personal power, their own ownership of their space, their responsibility, their feeling of responsibility for creating a space, controlling their space in order to create their ideal. In tarot cards, the magician, as above, so below. I'm the magician in my space. Okay. All right. Love you all. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.